At 2:17 a.m., while cleaning an empty office floor, she found a man collapsed on the cold marble floor. He looked homeless, broken, forgotten. She had no idea that the man she chose to help that night was the most powerful CEO in the building, and that one act of kindness would rewrite her entire destiny. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and comment below where you're watching from. And don't skip till the end, because this story changes everything. Every city has people no one sees, people who work when the lights are off, people whose names are never remembered. This is the story of one such woman and one night that changed her life forever. Maria Alvarez adjusted her worn-out jacket as she stepped into the silent glass tower in downtown Chicago. The city outside was still alive, but inside this building, everything was quiet, cold, empty. It was 10:45 p.m. Her shift always began when everyone else's life ended. Maria was 27 years old, a night cleaner, 2 jobs, no complaints, no dreams left. She pushed her cleaning cart across the polished floor, the wheels squeaking softly. She had learned how to move quietly, like she didn't want to disturb the world that never noticed her anyway. During the day, she worked at a small diner. At night, she cleaned offices that didn't belong to her. Glass desks, leather chairs, family photos of people who had everything she didn't. Every floor told the same story: success, power, money. Maria's story was different. Her mother had passed away 3 years ago. Her father left when she was a child. College dreams were replaced with rent bills and grocery lists. Still, she never let bitterness harden her heart. Her mother had always said, "Kindness costs nothing, mija, but it returns with interest." Maria held on to those words like a lifeline. That night, she reached the executive floors, the top levels, where the air felt heavier, quieter. She swiped her access card and entered floor 47. That's when she noticed something strange. A light was on. Executives never stayed late, not this late. She hesitated. Then she heard a sound, a low groan. Her heart skipped. "Hello," she whispered. No answer. She followed the sound toward the corner office, the largest one on the floor. The door was slightly open. Inside, she saw him, a man lying on the floor, unconscious. His clothes were wrinkled, his tie loosened, his hair messy. For a moment, she thought he might be a drunk who had wandered in, or worse, someone dangerous. Her instinct screamed at her to back away, but then she saw his face, pale, sweaty, weak. He wasn't dangerous. He was human. Maria dropped her mop and rushed to his side. "Sir, can you hear me?" she said, kneeling down. No response. She checked his breathing. It was shallow, uneven. Her hands trembled. She didn't have insurance. She couldn't afford trouble. Calling emergency services could mean questions, paperwork, even losing her job. For a second, fear tried to win. Then she remembered her mother's voice. "Kindness costs nothing, mija." She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. As she waited, she removed her jacket and gently placed it under his head. She wiped his forehead with a clean cloth from her cart. "Don't worry," she whispered, even though he couldn't hear her. "You're not alone." Minutes felt like hours. The man suddenly coughed, his eyes fluttering open. He looked straight at her, confused, afraid. "Easy," she said softly. "Help is coming." His lips moved. "Water." She grabbed her own water bottle, the one she saved all night because breaks were rare, and carefully helped him drink. He noticed, even in his weak state. "Why are you here?" he asked faintly. She smiled gently. "I clean." That was it. No explanation, no pity, just truth. Sirens echoed in the distance. Relief washed over her. Paramedics rushed in moments later. They lifted him onto a stretcher. One of them turned to Maria.
"Do you know who this is?" She shook her head. "No, sir." The paramedic's eyes widened slightly. "This is Daniel Whitmore." The name meant nothing to her, but the way they said it, with respect, with urgency. Before being wheeled out, the man looked back at her. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Gratitude, curiosity, and a question neither of them could ask. "Thank you," he whispered. She nodded. That was all. By morning, Maria was back on the bus, exhausted, thinking the night was over. She had no idea that Daniel Whitmore wasn't just another office worker. He was the CEO, the owner of the building, a billionaire who controlled thousands of lives. And he would never forget the woman who treated him like a human when the world only saw a title.
Daniel Whitmore woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor and the sharp scent of antiseptic. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The white ceiling above him looked unfamiliar, too bright, too clean. His head throbbed and his chest felt tight, as if someone had wrapped a heavy band around his ribs. He tried to move his hand. A dull pain shot through his arm. "Mr. Whitmore?" a calm voice said. "You're in St. Luke's Medical Center. You had a cardiac episode. Please try not to move." Daniel turned his head slowly. A nurse stood beside him, checking the IV line. She smiled reassuringly, but her eyes held professional concern. "How long?" he murmured. "Several hours. You're stable now." Stable. The word felt strange. Daniel Whitmore was used to controlling everything: boardrooms, markets, people. Yet one silent night had nearly taken his life without warning. Then, like a sudden flash, he remembered the floor, the cold marble, the blurry lights, and a woman's voice. He swallowed. "The woman, the cleaner." The nurse paused. "Cleaner?" "She found me. She called for help." His voice grew more urgent. "I need to see her." The nurse exchanged a glance with the doctor entering the room. "Mr. Whitmore, you need rest." Daniel's eyes hardened, not with anger, but with determination. "Please, just find her." The doctor nodded slightly. "We'll see what we can do." 3 days later, Daniel sat upright in a private hospital suite overlooking the city. News of his collapse had not gone public. His assistant had ensured complete silence. Stocks remained stable, the world kept spinning. But Daniel's mind was somewhere else. He replayed that night again and again. The way she knelt beside him, the calm in her voice, the water she gave him, her own. No one had ever done something so simple, so human for him without expecting something in return. "Sir," his assistant Mark said, entering the room, "you asked us to locate the night cleaner." "Yes," Daniel said immediately. "It wasn't easy," Mark admitted. "Cleaning staff are outsourced, no direct records, but we found her name." Daniel leaned forward. "And?" "Maria Alvarez, 27, works 2 jobs, lives on the south side. No criminal record, no social media presence to speak of." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Set up a meeting." Mark hesitated. "Sir, with respect, why?" Daniel looked out the window at the city he owned yet barely knew. "Because she saved my life," he said quietly, "and because no one else even noticed I was gone." That same evening, Maria stood behind the counter of the diner, wiping her hands on her apron. The dinner rush had slowed. Her feet ached, her back screamed for rest. She hadn't told anyone about that night. To her, it was over. A man needed help, she helped. Life moved on. The bell above the diner door rang. 2 men in suits walked in. Expensive suits, the kind she recognized from the offices she cleaned. Her stomach tightened. They scanned the room, then approached the counter. "Maria Alvarez?" one asked. "Yes," she said cautiously. "We'd like to speak with you." Her mind raced. Had she done something wrong? Had calling 911 violated some rule?
"I'm on shift," she said softly. "This won't take long," the man replied, offering a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We represent Daniel Whitmore." The name sounded familiar. Then it clicked. The paramedic. The way he'd said it. Her hands trembled slightly. Is he okay?" "He's alive because of you," the man said. They handed her a business card. Daniel Whitmore, CEO. The letters blurred in her vision. "He'd like to meet you," the man continued. "Tomorrow morning, transportation will be provided." Maria nodded slowly, still in shock. When they left, she stood frozen behind the counter. The cook called out, "You okay, Maria?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." But her heart wouldn't stop racing. The next morning, a black car waited outside her apartment. Maria wore her cleanest dress, simple, blue, nothing fancy. The driver opened the door. The building they arrived at wasn't the office tower. It was a private residence overlooking Lake Michigan. Glass walls, white stone, silence. Everything screamed money. Maria felt small as she stepped inside. Daniel Whitmore stood near the window, dressed casually in a sweater and slacks. He looked different without the suit. Older, softer. He turned when he heard her footsteps. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Daniel smiled. "You're real," he said quietly. She blinked. "Yes, sir." "Please," he said gently, "call me Daniel." He walked towards her, slowly, carefully. "I don't remember much from that night, but I remember you." She lowered her gaze. "I just did what anyone would." Daniel shook his head. "No, most people would have walked away." He gestured for her to sit. She did. "I want to thank you, properly." He slid an envelope across the table. Maria didn't touch it. "I didn't help you for money," she said, her voice steady. Daniel studied her face. There was no performance, no manipulation, only honesty. "That's exactly why I asked you here," he said. He leaned back slightly. "I don't need employees who fear me. I need people who remind me I'm human." She looked confused. "I'd like to offer you a position," Daniel said. "Not as a cleaner." Her breath caught. "A paid education, full support, and a role in my foundation once you're ready." Maria stared at him, stunned. "Why?" she whispered. Daniel's voice softened. "Because when I was lying on the floor, invisible to the world, you saw me." Silence filled the room. Outside, the lake shimmered under the morning sun. Maria felt something unfamiliar. Hope.
Maria's life did not change all at once. It changed in quiet, uncomfortable steps. The first change was the schedule. No more overnight shifts, no more scrubbing floors while the city slept. Daniel Whitmore's foundation arranged everything with careful precision. Her diner job stayed for now, but 3 mornings a week, a car arrived to take her downtown, not to clean, but to learn. The building was different from the office tower. Open spaces, warm light, people who smiled when they saw her. Still, Maria felt like she didn't belong. On her first day, she stood at the entrance, holding her bag too tightly, afraid to touch anything. A woman in her 40s approached her. "You must be Maria. I'm Claire, program coordinator." Maria nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Claire smiled. "No, ma'am, here. You're one of us now." One of us. The words echoed uncomfortably. The classes were difficult. Business fundamentals, communication, technology basics. Maria struggled at first. She had never used half the software they taught. Every mistake felt public, heavy. At night, she lay awake wondering if Daniel had made a mistake. But she remembered the way he had looked at her, not like a charity case, but like a choice. So she pushed herself. She studied on the bus. She asked questions even when her voice shook. She stayed late to practice. Slowly, something shifted. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was growing. Daniel kept his distance at first. He checked in through emails, short, professional, encouraging. "Good progress. Keep going. Proud of you."
Each message made her chest tighten in a way she didn't understand. When they finally met again, it was at a foundation event. Maria wore a simple black dress borrowed from a classmate. Her hair was tied back neatly. She barely recognized herself in the mirror. Daniel noticed immediately. Not the dress, the confidence. "You look different," he said carefully. "So do you," she replied, surprising herself. He laughed softly. "Fair." They spoke briefly about her classes, about his recovery, about nothing important. Yet when he walked away, Maria felt his absence like a missing note in a song. Not everyone welcomed her. Whispers followed her through the hallways. "She's the cleaner." Maria's life did not change all at once. It changed in quiet, uncomfortable steps. The first change was the schedule. No more overnight shifts, no more scrubbing floors while the city slept. Daniel Whitmore's foundation arranged everything with careful precision. Her diner job stayed for now, but 3 mornings a week, a car arrived to take her downtown, not to clean, but to learn. The building was different from the office tower. Open spaces, warm light, people who smiled when they saw her. Still, Maria felt like she didn't belong. On her first day, she stood at the entrance, holding her bag too tightly, afraid to touch anything. A woman in her 40s approached her. "You must be Maria. I'm Claire, program coordinator." Maria nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Claire smiled. "No, ma'am, here. You're one of us now." One of us. The words echoed uncomfortably. The classes were difficult. Business fundamentals, communication, technology basics. Maria struggled at first. She had never used half the software they taught. Every mistake felt public, heavy. At night, she lay awake wondering if Daniel had made a mistake. But she remembered the way he had looked at her, not like a charity case, but like a choice. So she pushed herself. She studied on the bus. She asked questions even when her voice shook. She stayed late to practice. Slowly, something shifted. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was growing. Daniel kept his distance at first. He checked in through emails, short, professional, encouraging. "Good progress. Keep going. Proud of you." Each message made her chest tighten in a way she didn't understand. When they finally met again, it was at a foundation event. Maria wore a simple black dress borrowed from a classmate. Her hair was tied back neatly. She barely recognized herself in the mirror. Daniel noticed immediately. Not the dress, the confidence. "You look different," he said carefully. "So do you," she replied, surprising herself. He laughed softly. "Fair." They spoke briefly about her classes, about his recovery, about nothing important. Yet when he walked away, Maria felt his absence like a missing note in a song. Not everyone welcomed her. Whispers followed her through the hallways. "She's the cleaner. Special treatment. Saved his life, so what?" One afternoon, a classmate named Ethan cornered her near the elevators. "Be honest, you wouldn't be here without him, right?" Maria's cheeks burned. "I wouldn't be here without hard work," she said quietly. Ethan scoffed. "Sure." That night, she cried for the first time in months. Not because of the insult, but because part of her feared he was right. Pressure mounted. The program's final evaluation approached, a presentation in front of the foundation board. Failure meant dismissal. Maria doubted herself constantly. The night before the presentation, she couldn't sleep. She sat at her small kitchen table, notes spread everywhere. At midnight, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Maria," Daniel's voice said softly. "I hope I'm not calling too late." She swallowed. "No, it's okay. I heard tomorrow's a big day." She laughed nervously. "Big is one word." He paused. "When I hired you, people told me I was reckless." Her heart skipped. "But that night," he continued, "you didn't see a CEO. You saw a person, and you didn't hesitate." She listened, breath held. "Tomorrow," he said, "don't try to prove you deserve to be here. You already do." Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. The presentation room was intimidating. Long table, serious faces, bright lights. Maria stood at the podium, hands shaking. Then she began. She spoke about access, about invisible workers, about potential wasted because of circumstance. She didn't use fancy words. She used truth. Halfway through, the room changed. Heads lifted, pens paused. When she finished, there was silence. Then applause. Not polite, real. Claire squeezed her shoulder. "You did it." Across the room, Daniel met her eyes. Pride, respect, something deeper. After the evaluation, Daniel asked her to walk with him. They stepped onto the terrace overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. "You earned your place," he said. She nodded, emotion thick in her throat. "I want to offer you a permanent role, program development, paid, full benefits." Her breath caught. "But," he added gently, "there's something else I need to say." She turned to him. "I've crossed a line in my thoughts," Daniel admitted, "and before rumors decide our story, I wanted honesty." Her heart pounded. "I respect you too much to confuse opportunity with emotion, but I can't pretend I don't feel something." The city hummed below them. Maria's voice was steady when she replied, "Then let's not pretend." They stood there, not touching, but closer than ever before. For the first time, Maria wasn't afraid of being seen. The truth never stays hidden for long, especially when power, money, and emotion collide. It started with a headline, "CEO's secret protege, from night cleaner to boardroom." Maria saw it on her phone while riding the bus to work. Her name wasn't mentioned, but the photo was unmistakable. Her standing beside Daniel on the terrace, blurred but recognizable. Her stomach dropped. By the time she reached the foundation building, the whispers were no longer whispers. They're saying you planned it, that you knew who he was, that this was all strategy. Maria walked through the halls with her head held high, but inside, everything shook. Daniel called her into his office that afternoon. He looked tired, not weak, burdened. "I should have protected you better," he said quietly. She shook her head. "I don't need protection. I need truth." He nodded. "The board is divided. Some want you removed from the program. They say perception matters." "And what do you say?" she asked. Daniel met her eyes. "I say you earned everything you have." The silence stretched. "But," he added, "this has become bigger than us." Maria understood what he wasn't saying. If she stayed, his reputation would suffer. If she left, the story would end. She took a slow breath. "I'll go," she said. Daniel stood abruptly. "No, you shouldn't have to." She raised her hand gently. "Let me finish." She smiled sadly. "My whole life, I cleaned spaces I didn't belong to. I survived by being invisible. I don't want success if it means hiding again." He softened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," she replied, "let me stand on my own. If I fall, let it be as myself." The board meeting was brutal. Questions cut sharp, assumptions disguised as concern. "Were you aware of Mr. Whitmore's identity that night?" "No." "Did you expect compensation?" "No." "Do you deny a personal relationship?" "Yes." "I deny manipulation." Maria spoke calmly, honestly, without apology. At the end, the chairwoman leaned forward. "What do you want from this foundation, Miss Alvarez?" Maria paused. "I want opportunity to be based on effort, not background, not sympathy, not proximity to power." Silence followed. Then the chairwoman nodded. "You may step outside." Minutes felt like hours. When the door opened, Daniel was standing. "They voted," he said. Her heart pounded. "And?" "You're staying," he said simply, "on your merits, and the program will expand based on your proposal." Relief flooded her, but there was something else in his eyes. respect. The media storm faded faster than it began. A new headline replaced the old one. From invisible to influential, how one woman changed a foundation. Maria moved into her own apartment, not luxury, dignity. She led outreach programs, spoke at events, shared her story without shame. She never forgot where she came from. And Daniel? Daniel stepped back, not because he stopped caring, but because he cared enough to wait. Months passed. One evening, Maria received a handwritten note. No logo, no assistant, just ink. Coffee, no titles, no expectations. If you want, Daniel. She smiled. At the cafe, they sat like strangers, nervous, real. This time, Daniel said softly, "I'm not a CEO, and I'm not a cleaner," she replied. They laughed. Outside, the city moved, loud, fast, and different. Inside, something steady began. Years later, Maria stood on a stage. The foundation had grown nationwide. She spoke to a room full of night workers, janitors, caregivers, people the world forgot. "I was once invisible," she said, "but kindness made me visible, not because it was rewarded, but because it revealed who I already was." In the front row, Daniel watched, not as a savior, not as a CEO, but as a man who once collapsed on a cold floor and was lifted by compassion. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the power of kindness, like this video. Subscribe for more emotional, life-changing stories. Share it with someone who needs hope. Comment below. Do you believe one small act can change a life? Thank you for watching till the end. Your support means everything.